Hey guys, so what we went ahead and decided to do, since we don't have first chapter Thursday in the library anymore, is that we are going to do a novel every Thursday for you guys. And we'll make sure that it's posted on the page, and then you guys, whether you want to watch it or not, will have that option. We are going to be reading James Patterson's Alley Cross.
Disclaimer, we are not YouTubers, not
No.
editors, so there will probably be mistakes as we go, and we're just going to keep rolling with it. So I'll read the back for you so you understand kind of what we're getting into. It is, my dad is a famous detective who taught me everything he knows. My friend has been missing for days. They are going to find him. Everyone tells me I'm just like my father. When your dad is Alex Cross, that's a lot to live up to, but I've got to try it. This is my very first case, and my friend's life is on the line. If I inherited any of my dad's detective skills, it's time for them to kick in. So we're going to do the first 3 chapters because this book is actually, the chapters are relatively short, at least to begin with. And what we'll do is we'll take turns reading the chapters, and if you want to follow along, you can actually pick this up at Walmart or
Which is where we got
anywhere
it.
else, Target, I'm sure, any other kind of bookstore, and if not, you're more than welcome to just listen to it as we read.
The other thing that you guys have the option of doing is after we're done with reading you guys to chapters, is if you want to do a novel response, we can put that up in a Google Classroom and you guys can respond to.
They're more than welcome to respond on the comments, ask any questions or anything like that, and before we start like the next episode, we can
discuss it and
Discuss.
address any of the questions or address your points because we want this to be interactive. But anyway, I'll let Mr. Pratt get started. By the way, Miss Barbata.
Mr. Pratt. Chapter 1. It had been 3 days since my friend disappeared, and I was starting to think the worst might have happened. The last time I'd seen him was on Friday, December 21st, just after 3:30 p.m. That was on the sidewalk in front of Washington Latin Middle School, where Gabe and I were in the same class. We'd just gotten out for winter break, and as far as I was concerned, I knew exactly how we were going to kick it off. So, I'll see you tonight at 7, I said. The plan was to get online with our usual crew and start a marathon session of Outpost, our favorite game. Just try and stop me, Gabe had joked. That was it. Then he turned on to East Street and started walking home. I turned west and done the same. I didn't even think about it. Why would I? Whoever thinks maybe that's the last time I'll ever see my friend. But Gabe never did make it home that day. He wasn't picking up his phone, and he hadn't answered any of the 500,000 texts I'd sent him either. Now, if it was Christmas Eve, 3 days had gone by, and it was like Gabe had just disappeared. Except, see, that's the thing. People don't just disappear. There's always an explanation. That's what my dad says, and he should know. His name is Alex Cross. He's a homicide detective with the Washington, D.C. police, and I'll tell you this much. I hope I can be half the detective he is someday. In the meantime, I couldn't stop thinking about Gabe. Couldn't stop wondering what had happened to him. Couldn't stop a whole lot of really bad thoughts from passing through my brain, like one scary movie. In fact, if anyone had asked me, I would have told them there was only one thing I wanted for Christmas that year. I wanted Gabe Qualls to be found. And I mean alive.
Chapter 2. Allie, come on, little brother. Heads up, you're on. Say what? I guess I got lost in my own thoughts for a second there. It happens all the time. We were in church for Christmas Eve services. I looked around and realized my older brother, Damon, wasn't the only one giving me the eyeball. St. Anthony's church was packed. I guess Father Bernardin had already introduced me while I was sitting there spacing out. Let's try that again, Father Bernardin said in his Haitian accent, and with that kind of impatient smile aimed my way. The annual Christmas Eve children's prayer will be led by our own Allie Cross tonight. Allie, would you please come up? The pastor moved aside for me as I stepped up to the old wooden lectern and looked out at the congregation. a whole sea of black faces like mine. Something like 400 pairs of eyes looked back, waiting for me to get my act together. It's supposed to be a big deal to get chosen for the children's prayer at my church, especially on Christmas Eve. I guess you could say it was an honor, but my mind was like mush that night, and I was wishing they'd tapped someone else. Go ahead, son, said Dad from the front row. He pointed at the page in my hand where I had the whole prayer written out, since I didn't trust myself to remember it by heart. When I looked at the words on the paper, it was like they didn't mean much. Nothing compared to being alone, out there on the street, or kidnapped, or whatever else Gabe might have been going through. I hadn't known him that long, only since the beginning of middle school, but we got to be friends right away. I saw him in the cafeteria one day, eating by himself and working on a pretty cool drawing. I mentioned something about it, and that's when I found out he was a total Outpost fan, like me. Ever since then, we'd been gaming together. He'd come over to watch movies and that kind of thing, but he never really talked about himself much, and I never really asked. Now I was thinking maybe I should have. Like, I also should have just read the prayer anyway and gotten over it like I was supposed to, but I couldn't. I know this is usually a prayer for kids everywhere, but if it's okay, I'd like to pray for just one kid tonight. I said, I know a lot of you know Gabriel Qualls. He's in my grade at Washington Latin. He doesn't really come to church, but the point is, he's been missing for 3 days. I thought Father Bernardin might cut me off right there, but he didn't. Everyone kept waiting, so I kept going. When I was working on this prayer, I thought a lot about the night Jesus was born and how nobody wanted to make any room for him and how he had to be born in a stable, I said. So now I'm wondering if maybe we could learn something from that. I'm hoping we can all make room for Gabe, like in our hearts and in our prayers. I didn't know if this was going to help, but I figured it couldn't hurt. How often do you get the chance to spend 400 prayers on somebody's way, all at once? My voice was kind of shaky, but I just kept talking. Dear God, I said, and everyone went still. Most of the congregation bowed their heads. I know you know where Gabriel Qualls is, and I know you probably have a plan for him, just like you do for anyone else. I don't want to ask too much, but if you're listening, please watch out for Gabe tonight. Please bring him home soon. And I guess that's all. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen, the congregation echoed back at me. Then, just before I stepped down, I realized there was one more thing. Oh, and happy birthday, Jesus, I said, because, hey, it was Christmas after all.
And we're going to stop there for today so we don't make this super, super long. So hopefully we'll do about 10-minute-ish episodes, maybe 1 to 2 to 3 chapters, depending on how quickly we move through them a week. And let us know what you guys think.
And, tell us what you thought of the protagonist, who you thought the protagonist was. And
make a prediction, perhaps, of what you think might have happened, or do you think that he's going to find him? Something like that.
Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in.
Be safe.